Hey everybody, this is Fran, rambling through everyday life with Fran and Angela. Angela is not with us this week, so I hope you guys are okay with that. This week's podcast guest is, she's been around. We've had her on a few times because we love her that much, and we have something super fun and special to talk about this week with her. This week, you have the true privilege and honor of listening to our friend Katrina Bazzoli. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to talk about because you're just going to have to keep listening, but it's good stuff, y'all. Get your Amazon pulled up. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. Okay, we love you guys so much. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Okay, Katrina, we are back in the recording studio because we have a couple of things to talk about. First of all, for the listeners, if you don't know Katrina, you can find her on season 1. We've had her for a couple of episodes, but then most recently, we had you on this season, season 2, episode 28. It was released on March 8th. Katrina, you shared with us a story about how you were leaning into the Lord and trying to trust Him in a particular situation. And then now all of a sudden you have an update for us. Tell us the update before we dive into the heart of this conversation today.
Yes, I am 21 weeks pregnant. And when we recorded the podcast, I either had just found out, but it was so early that I couldn't tell, or we found out like a week and a half later or something like that. And then we had a whole situation where we didn't hear the heartbeat at first and blah, blah, blah. So it was a little scary. But, yep, 21 weeks, and the baby is moving
and grooving.
And living her best life.
And so it's a baby girl. And you're due when? August?
August 12th. Prime time for my job. But it's fine. Everything will be fine.
For those of you all that don't know, Katrina lives on campus here at Union, and she is a resident director. So she has a very important life in res life, and that due date just happens to be right in the smack dab middle of welcome back to school, everyone.
So it'll be a great time.
Yeah, it'll be a great time.
Move in without me. It's fine.
So go back and listen to that fun episode if you want to. We called it, actually, Short, Sweet, and Strong Rambling with Katrina Bazzoli. Okay, so the reason why I have you on here today, I wish that this was something we recorded so people could see, but we will post pictures and all the things. You have a book, my precious friend.
Yeah.
And so the name of the book is What Would You Say? An Honest Look at Half a Heart for God. So quickly give us just an overview of why you wrote the book, what the book is about, and then we're going to just dive in quickly to a couple of chapters that I personally love.
Okay. So I wrote the book because I grew up in a household where my mom went to church every Sunday and we went every now and then. But it was never a conversation throughout the week. So I knew church was something you did. It's not really that big of a deal, though. It doesn't affect every aspect of your life. And then, I got to college and I realized very quickly that I wasn't a Christian, although I would have said my whole life that I was a Christian. And I got asked the question, what would you say if you died? And God asked, why should I let you into heaven? And it was the first time that I thought, like, oh, actually, I don't know why I'm a Christian. I just say it because it's the right thing to say. Yeah, I went to church sometimes, and I'm a good person. So that's the reason why I wrote it, because I realized there's a lot of people that are still like me or still like how I was. They have no clue what they would say. Yeah. Or I know I said all the wrong answers, didn't mention Jesus, and made it all about myself. And so I wrote the book in hopes to challenge people the same way that question challenged me, because in reality, it's just you having half a heart for God. It's like I will submit the things I want to, but live my life throughout the week however I want to. So it was that was a main inspiration for writing the book.
Listen, there is so much to this. I think every single person that is listening that is a believer understands exactly what you're talking about here. And I think Angela and I not this current year, probably need to pray it more on a regular basis, but we spent quite a bit of time devoted to thinking about, talking about, praying about having a undivided heart, that we just live. I mean, we're all just prone to We love God. We love Him. We do. We call ourselves a Christian. We are, but the world is strong and pulling our attention into 1,000 places. So I love it. I love that you wrote this. I think it's a book everybody should read. I've told you that I plan to give many copies away. Would you say that the audience, it doesn't matter the age?
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think it's a book that doesn't matter the age, but also doesn't matter where you are in your faith. I don't think you only have to be, quote unquote, a lukewarm believer. I don't think you only have to be a skeptic. Like, I think you can read it at any point.
Yes.
And learn and figure out, oh, have I just been doing all the things I'm supposed to do? Or do I actually believe this? Yeah. Oh, if I don't believe this, what do I believe? Because there's a lot of contradictions in what I believe, or whatever the case is. I think no matter the age or no matter where you are in your faith, I think you can learn from it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read, what do you call these? You title it, What People Are Saying About Your Book.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm going to read something that she's your friend, Ashley Minor, Fellowship of Christian Athletes representative at the University of Texas. This is what your friend Ashley has to say about the book. And I love this so very much. She says, I am convicted, challenged, inspired, but also reminded of my purpose after reading the words on these pages. This book will grow your relationship deeper with Christ and help you understand the love of the Father and how He is waiting to accept you no matter the worldly decisions you have made in the past. Whether you are a new believer, have walked with Christ for many years now, or if you have yet to decide to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, this book is for you. I have no doubt in my soul that by the end of this book, your life will be changed forever for His glory and for your good. So grab your highlighters, pens, because you will want to take notes of everything God is saying to you through What Would You Say? That right there is probably the perfect summary of this book. So Ashley Minor, that is a good recommendation. Okay, so we're going to dive into some chapters, okay?
Yep.
I want to cover them all, but for the sake of time, we cannot.
Okay.
I'm going to read the chapters before we get to the ones that we're going to focus on, just so that people can see what are the chapter titles. Okay. Chapter 1 is titled, What Would You Say? Chapter 2 is titled, Live Your Truth. We'll put that link in the show notes because we've talked about that in a previous episode with you. Chapter 3, Did God Really Say? And then chapter 4 is where I want to start, is titled Lukewarm. Tell me, before I ask you just a couple of questions, tell me what is lukewarm? What does that mean to you? Why did you need to include that?
Yeah. Well, I did put an analogy in the book that I'll say. I'm a coffee drinker. And
Amen,
the coffee
and
is only good when it's hot. I'm a hot coffee drinker. I don't do ice that much. But so once my coffee gets lukewarm, it is nasty. I might try to swallow it down because I just love coffee so much. But like in reality, it's not good unless it's hot.
Right.
And so Revelation 3:16 is a verse that I reference a lot. But God compares the lukewarm believers to, well, He doesn't compare it to coffee, but He compares it and says, I would rather you be hot or cold. Like I will spit you out of my mouth if you're lukewarm, which is how I feel about my coffee. And so that's just kind of how I lived my life before I was a believer. Although I would have said I was a believer, I went to church when I felt like it. I did campus outreach, throughout the week, and I was a nice person. But in reality, I did not submit my full entire life to God. And it's like He finds that disgusting. Yeah. Like the same way I find my coffee disgusting. And so He wants us hot or cold. Yeah. And I think we are so okay, like our Bible Belt context, we're okay with just getting by and being lukewarm. In reality, He wants us to pick. Like, which one are we going to be?
And listen, if we could have the awareness, it's not just a daily choice. It's an hourly choice. It's a situational choice. Yeah. You write in this chapter that I think should just really grab our attention, and I wish that we could all just sit for a minute in this scriptural reference that you mentioned in Revelation. But you write just simply, the lukewarm lifestyle of a believer nauseates God. that should get our attention. We should not be afraid to sit and consider who we are and the type of daily life that we're living.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go on down in this same chapter. You say, if you truly give your heart to Jesus, transformation follows.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the sentences, concepts, ideas, realities that nobody's going to argue.
Yeah.
It's the daily rubber meet the road of where transformation is just difficult.
Yeah.
So when you think about transformation in your own life, your own story, but just all of us as believers, as we grow and evolve and change, what is it that's keeping us from transformation? Why are we not transforming?
Yeah. First, I want to say I don't ever want to make it seem like we won't ever sin again.
Right.
Because I obviously understand we still have the flesh that we
Yes.
wrestle with and this world that we wrestle with until we meet Jesus face to face at the end of this life. And so I'm not saying that. But I think it's just because, obviously we have the flesh, but also we live in a culture that is so loud in telling us, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, do what makes you feel good. No
Right.
one can tell you what's right and what's wrong. Only
Right.
do what you want.
Right.
And honestly, that sounds good. It feels good. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? And so I think it's hard sometimes for us to believe that this way that Jesus is proposing is better because, the world sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, that does.
Sure.
If I do whatever I want, that is nice. Like,
Sure.
why submit? And so, yeah, I think transformation is sometimes hard because we have the wrong people and outlets coming into our ear constantly, which is why we have to be in the Word. Like, we have to be able to combat lies with truth, but you only know truth if you know Jesus and you are in the Word and you're getting to know Him. And so I think that's why it can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and again, like if I just sit here and I think about myself or people that I love that I'm super close to is, having the conversation of just what is the voice, the voices, the outlets that you're talking about. What is coming into your ears and into your mind?
Yeah.
And then what do you do? That's part of the transformation process is getting rid of the things, the people, the situations, the whatevers that are not of benefit to you when it comes to the things of the Lord. You can love people, but that's where the transformation gets hard and we just go, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'd rather not. And that's just the rubber meeting the road. Okay, quickly, let's talk about one of my all-time favorite parables in all the world is the parable of the sower. I love that. I think this is just a beautiful reminder that we can just quickly but slowly, I know that doesn't make sense, but I think we can quickly cover the parable and just slowly articulate and remind us of what is truly important. So, the parable of the sower. Talk to us about the soil, all the things. I love this parable so much.
Yeah, I think one, I used to only read this as someone who reads it. I'm the believer. I'm reading all these people are not believers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it was hard for me to read it. Or let me rephrase. It got hard when I realized, this can still be about the believer. Yeah. This can be about the season of life that I am currently in.
Right.
But the one or the couple that I guess stand out, the thorn. And the thorns I don't have it right in front of me, but the thorns is you plant the seed, and it sounds good. Things are good, but then the thorns and the weeds just kind of
choke it out. Yep.
And so that one is one that I feel like I see the most in our culture. One is because I think we see a lot of motivational speeches from the pulpit these days. And there's so many social media famous preachers, and they make the gospel all about us.
Right.
And so it's like, ooh, the gospel sounds so good.
Right.
Like, this sounds like something that I can benefit from. It's all about me. God is going to enhance my life.
Right.
And then troubles come into the world, and it's like, wait, I didn't remember hearing anything about troubles in this sermon or these series that I've been listening to. And it's like, wait, I don't know if I actually want this.
Yeah.
Well, scripture never tells us this life is going to be super easy. But if you're listening to a whole bunch of preachers who are reminding you how great you are and how God loved you and is on your side, and obviously he does love us and is on our side, you start to realize, like, oh, what I'm hearing from the pulpit is not what I'm experiencing in life. And so I see that when I feel like the most, because we're just not, like, the source of the word is coming from people who want to make it sound good. And the gospel is a hard thing.
Right. That's a whole nother issue.
I know.
That's a whole nother issue. Okay. So, the parable of the sower. So we've got, first we see there is ground along the path, that you that you talk about. No matter if you're a plant parent, if you are a, I can't read, y'all. Might need to get my readers. No matter if you're a plant parent or not a plant or a parent, but no matter if you're a plant parent or not, we all know that if seeds fall onto a path, most likely they won't grow anything worthwhile. Birds, the evil ones, snatch those seeds away before anything can happen with them. We know that. We also know, you go on to remind us, that the next the seed that drops on the rocky soil. We can all understand this. It has which has just a little more hope, just a little bit, than the seed on the path. This seed actually has a little sprout that comes from the ground. We can see a little bloom, but because the soil probably wasn't the best and it was surrounded by rocks, the plant sprang up quickly, but was scorched by the sun. This is the person who actually enjoys the message of Jesus, but maybe does not have someone discipling them or is not connected with a Christian community. We can all understand that.
Yeah.
That can be a season for a lot of us. And so I love, the soil represents our heart. And Angela and I and you and I, we've all talked about the importance of knowing the condition of our heart, even just from a practical standpoint. When we step into church on Sunday morning, let us ask the Lord to soften our heart so that we can actually receive the word. We want our heart to be good soil.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, again, I read that only thinking all of this is for the unbeliever, except for the good soil. Obviously, that's about me. I'm the believer. I know it. But, man, there's seasons in my life where I am definitely on rocky soil or the path. And it's not always reading that, looking at the world, but also evaluating my own heart in certain seasons, because not every season am I hoorah for Jesus.
That's
or
right.
hoorah about getting in the word in the morning, or whatever the case is.
Right.
And so just reminding myself that this isn't only for the unbeliever, but also I need to check my heart as well.
Well, and again, the title of the book, what would you say? An honest look at half a heart for God. We are in this. You wrote this to challenge us to consider, where is our heart for the Lord? Okay, so good. Chapter 5. Can we talk about chapter 5 for just a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I love this word so much, and Angela's not here, obviously. But Angela, have you ever done the word of the year? Are you a word of the year person? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but
no, I'm not doing it because I get anxious. Like, I'm supposed to live my life through the lens of just one word. No, but that's fine if you do. I like all the words, so I can't pick just one. But Angela loves Word of the Year. And one year her word was the title of chapter 5, which is Abide. Okay, so you say, these are your words. You say this. Let me read out loud for just a second.
Okay.
How do we abide in Jesus? Well, that is the million-dollar question.
Yes, it is.
I always love to define words so we are all on the same page. I do too. I love to Google words. Love it. Just good old Webster's dictionary. So to abide is to accept or act in accordance with a decision, to hold to remain faithful to. And Jesus actually told his disciples in John chapter 15, one of my all-time favorite chapters, he told them, abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I'm the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. for apart from me, you can do nothing. In those couple of verses, he says the word abide a lot. Abide, 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 and abide. So, Katrina, how do we abide in Jesus?
Great question.
I know.
Let me know when you find. No, it's I think it goes along with kind of what I was saying earlier. Is like you have to know him and continue to get to know him.
Remain faithful.
Yeah, it's not something where it's like, all right, I know Jesus,
That's
and
right.
now I'm done. I don't need to read the Bible. I don't need to do anything, because I wish we could know it all about Jesus, but we can't. And yeah, I think we have to remind ourselves that this isn't something that we just do one time, but it's something that we have to do daily. And it's being in prayer daily. And I'm not going to act like I am doing all of these perfectly, okay? But being in prayer and actually communicating with him, being with people who love him, that can encourage you, reading his word. Like, there's so much that we can do and have to do to continue to stay with him. And one thing that, like, I'm getting out of a season, thankfully, of like just laziness, of like, oh, well, I didn't read today. Maybe tomorrow, oh wait, I didn't read at 8 a.m. So maybe tomorrow, like just dumb stuff. But I'm getting out of that season, thankfully. But like just reminding ourselves that any relationship takes work. Yeah. And there's, I don't know, you can just find delight in the duty sometimes. Right. And asking God, like, God, right now I'm in a season where I do not feel like getting to know you. Yeah. Like, he can take that. Yeah. Sometimes I think he can't. And sometimes I'm thinking, he doesn't know that I'm feeling this way. Right. Obviously, he knows. And so just being honest with that, because we're not going to always be in a season where we are just, again, ready to go for Jesus. But being honest and letting him know, like, I am in a funk, and I want you to take me out of it. And even if you don't take me out of it right now, give me the just discipline to still get to know you. But I think that comes with just continuing to get to know him and being around people that can edify you. So
I love that you wrote a little bit on pruning and bearing fruit. I love that you combined that as a heading in this chapter, because I think we tend to, like, we only talk about bearing fruit. I'm so guilty of that. Like, your life is meant to bear fruit. Like, it's just going to occur. Yeah. But there's a process to bearing fruit, and that's called pruning. Yeah. And after reading, I have so much underlined, but I think I just want to bring that back into the conversation. Yeah. Not that it's doom and gloom, but it's hard. Bearing fruit is a happy topic.
Oh, of course.
But pruning is difficult. Yeah. What can you share with us about pruning, what you learned, how you feel about it, maybe how you're being pruned right now? I don't know.
Yeah, I think pruning is one of those things. Yeah, you're right. We don't talk about it a ton. But I think sometimes we expect, if I just try a little harder, I will bear this fruit without trying to prune.
That's a good word.
And it's like, no.
If I just try a little harder.
Yeah, like if you have these relationships that are continue to pull you away from the Lord, you can try all you want, but those relationships need pruning. You know what I mean? Like, they need to go. And I think there's discernment. There's discernment of when you should continue to fight for a relationship and when you should prune. Like, so I'm not saying one size fits all with all of this, but I think sometimes we just try to force certain things instead of understanding that God is clearly saying, no, this thing needs to go for you to bear fruit. And so that's been a process for me my whole entire life.
It's
obviously.
Painful.
Yeah.
Pruning is painful. You say right here under this little heading, you say the purpose of pruning is to reduce the influence or growth. Let me just start over and read that again. The purpose of pruning is to reduce the influence or growth of something by removing unwanted parts. Pruning especially increases fruitfulness and growth. So this hard stuff, this cutting away, this removal has got to take place. Yeah. It has to.
Yeah, and sometimes obviously our flesh and the spirit conflict. Yes. And sometimes they don't want the same thing. Yeah. And so sometimes it's hard because it's like, God, I know you want me to prune this and you want me to let this go, but my flesh does not. And so it's hard. Real hard.
Again, this is probably why we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. Okay, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, the next chapter. What next chapter are we going to talk about? So we did 4, we did 5. I'm having to flip. Okay, so chapter 6 is the life of Paul. Chapter 7 is love versus tolerate. Chapter 8, I want to spend just a minute because I love the title of this chapter. And I just think this is a word that I don't think I use enough, that I don't talk about enough, that I don't consider enough. And that is the word assurance.
Yep.
What is this chapter about?
So assurance is about just believers having hope and confidence and assurance that, yes, I actually do know Jesus, and I know at the end of this life, I'm spending eternity with him. I feel like I've heard from a handful of people, and I think one thing of doubting and figuring out is one thing, but who are just like, I hope I make it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's so much in the Bible that tells us that you should know that you are going to be in eternity with Jesus, or that you're not, like, you shouldn't know. So there shouldn't be like like, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because as believers, we should have assurance that what Jesus did on the cross and what I've accepted, he died on the cross and then rose and defeated death.
Right.
I mean, without the resurrection, we have nothing to have hope in. But because we know that, we should also know, if I've accepted that and I've fallen in line with what he wants me to do, obviously our works don't save us, but because what Jesus did and we accept that, we should know. So there shouldn't be a doubt in our mind. And so I want believers to know, yes, we have assurance that we will be in eternity with Jesus, and that not even just eternity, we have assurance that we have the Holy Spirit empowering us to live a life that's pleasing to him. You know, like, there's just so many things we should know that I feel like I hear a lot of believers that are like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's break this down into the practical day to day.
I don't know.
Oh, y'all. Okay. Listen, as we record this, it's late in the day. So, we're a little hungry. We're a little tired. A little silly. Okay, so you say in this chapter, I love this, just the practicality of this is so important when we think about the word assurance. I'm reading your own words back to you. You say, Jesus tells us that there are only two possible routes when it comes to eternity. First, there is a broad road that leads to destruction or death. Not only is this road broad, but Jesus also says there are many who go through it. Many of those people believe that they are on the right path, but they're not. The second route that Jesus talks about is the narrow road that leads to life. There are only really two options here.
Yeah.
The big, fat, wide, worldly road
Yeah.
and the narrow road that Jesus calls us to. Tell me what you think about when we know this is not new to us, but again, under the umbrella of assurance, I'm just sitting here now thinking about just today, my life, yes, this season, yes, today, what road am I walking on? And we just need to know.
Yeah.
Every day when I wake up, which road am I choosing? What do you love about when you think about the two roads, the big, fat, wide road and the little bitty, everybody wants to be on the skinny road.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be on the skinny road.
Yeah. And I think it's sad because I feel like a lot of people have made the bar is just really low to be on the skinny road these days, is what I'm trying to say.
That's a good word.
So it's like, oh, I do some good things. Although I lie, cheat, steal, I should be on the skinny road. It's just the bar is very low for morals these days. But I don't know. I just think when I think of the narrow road, I'm just so thankful that Jesus chose me. You know what I mean? Like, because the wide road has people on there that would say, I love the Lord.
Yeah.
And so the thought of like, wow, Jesus chose me to be on this narrow road, and he trusted me to walk this road, and he knows I'm not going to do it perfectly because obviously my flesh is loud sometimes. But he also gave me his spirit to empower me to walk on this road and to encourage and to disciple and to challenge or whatever the case is. Yeah. And so I just think of, wow, like it just feels very honoring. Like you chose me to be on this road.
That's so good.
But I also need to remind myself too, like the same way that I talked about the parable of the sower, although I know that I'm on that road, especially when it comes to eternity, it's like also I can't let that be a reason why I abuse his grace. Like, I know I'm saved, so let me live my life how I want to.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so just reminding myself not to let assurance allow me to abuse, which that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And ultimately, we're asking, is Jesus Lord and Savior of your life?
Yeah. I think we're very fine with him just saving us.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But the Lord of our daily life, the Lord of our life, this is where we talk about abiding. This is where we talk about assurance. This is where we talk about the road.
Yeah.
And left up to my own, I need the people to help me stay on that narrow path. And of course, I need the Lord and the disciplines daily to help me. But see, this is all good. This is stuff that a lot of us are familiar with.
Yeah.
But I think, like we said at the beginning, this book is for all of us, no matter your age, no matter your time that you've walked with the Lord. This is also wonderful, kind of back to the basics conversation for you just to have with your people. Yeah. Just to walk through the chapters and talk with your people around a table about where you are. Okay, the last chapter, chapter 10. I think this is the last chapter. Chapter 10 is, we're going to go with chapter 10 as the last chapter.
As I'm trying to pull it up and see myself.
Yes, it is. It's the last chapter. Because I'm like, well, it better be because it's time. The book is not finished. Yes. The book is finished. But the name of this chapter is called It Is Finished. However, I wish we could go back and talk about chapter 9. It is called Don't Be Fooled, but we don't have time. Chapter 10, It Is Finished. You open up this chapter by asking this question, a couple of questions. What is the gospel? Why is it the good news? Are you able to articulate this news to yourself and others?
Do you know how many times I've heard people say, oh, the gospels? Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Oh. And I'm like, no, not the gospels. Like, what is the good news of the gospel?
Oh, wow.
And they cannot answer me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Looky there.
And again, times are changing and we have a ton of resources now. And maybe there's people who've been in the church all their lives that didn't have a whole bunch of resources early on, you know? But now we should not have an excuse of not knowing why the gospel is good news, especially if you claim to be his.
Right.
So, anyways, I cut you off.
No, I think this is so good. I think that, listen, it took me to my 40s for somebody to actually put me in a position to where I had to actually speak the gospel to people that did not know it. And it was just like, that is not something that we spend a lot of time practicing, discussing. Do we even know and understand what it is we're talking about outside of just very basic, basic concepts? Okay, so this is why you all need to order this book, and we'll make sure that we link to that in show notes. But on the back of the book, I'm going to end, as we discuss the book, I'm going to end with what you said in the beginning. What would you say if you died tomorrow and God asked you, why should I let you into heaven? The answer to this question will reveal what you truly believe. Your answer will also have a direct impact on how you live your life. Going to church, reading your Bible, and posting scriptures on your social media aren't bad things, but that's not what grants you salvation or entrance into heaven. In a world where our feelings are now our God, be careful not to fall into the trap of thinking you can love the world and still love and serve the creator of it. We can only fight off the enemy with the truth, but we must know and believe the truth ourselves. That's why you need to order this book. That's why people need to read this book, no matter who you are. Your age.
That was kind of good.
Yeah, that was. Listen, you wrote some good words.
I was like, dang, I wrote that?
You wrote that.
Wow. The spirit definitely took over there.
My favorite sentence of all is, In a world where our feelings are now our God, be careful not to fall into the trap of thinking you can love the world and still love and serve the creator of it. Dang, right there. That's a whole nother. That's what you wrote the book about. I understand. But dang, that's a good word right there. Okay. Yeah, Katrina, this is awesome. I'm so excited for everybody to get their little hands on it.
Yes. April 26th is when it officially releases.
So can they order on Amazon?
Yes. Yeah. Pre-order link is ready to go now.
Yeah.
And then if you're on Union's campus on Cinco de Mayo, Ken Litcher is throwing me a book launch.
A little Mexican book launch.
I was like, we did pick a fun date for this, huh? I think
Are we having chips and dip?
Oh, we should.
Yeah,
Keep
we
the
should.
theme
Cinco
going.
de Mayo, good grief.
So I don't really know any other information other than that, but I'll have some MAC copies on deck to sell them.
That's so awesome. And you will sign those puppies for our people that are local. Okay, as we wrap up, would you just briefly tell us, you were down in New Orleans and you met the fabulous Priscilla Shire.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you want to share with us? What did she say?
Yeah.
What was all that about? Tell us something good.
Okay, two things. So she spoke at a convention or clinic for coaches' wives. My husband's a basketball coach. I went with him to New Orleans for the Final Four. And it was just so good. That message was about not looking so far ahead into the next season because there's hard things in this current season, and just being reminded that God will use those hard things to bring him glory and for your good. And she used some scripture out of Genesis that I can't remember right now, but basically how God will use those hard things to allow you to bring him glory, which was really good. And then Sunday, she talked about how believers need to be believers Monday through Saturday.
Did you say, excuse me, ma'am, I've written a book about that?
I said, Priscilla, shout me out, please. No, but it was really good. Just talking about how the enemy is real and we need to have our focus on the Lord, obviously, but also like we were in, let me think.
In the Bible.
Yes, in the Bible. the breastplate of righteousness.
Oh, yeah. The armor of God, Ephesians 6, maybe.
Paul wrote it, is all that matters. He wrote every book anyways. And so it was just really good, just talking about realize that there's an actual enemy, and if you're focusing on all the wrong things, you're using all this energy for someone or something that's not the actual enemy.
Yeah.
Realize that there's a devil out there that's really actually trying to fight this war. But also, yes, believers, like, she wanted to go through all of them, of course, but she was just focusing that we have to be able to live a life of righteousness, not only one day out of the week, but every day.
Yeah.
So
what a good word.
Yeah,
weren't you just
so
like,
sweet.
oh my gosh, can I go home with you and study with you and learn from you?
Just FaceTime me later.
Yeah, here's my number.
But I did give her a copy of my book. Like
That's so
I don't
awesome.
know if she'll read it, but if she does, or even if she passes on to her son, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did give her one, though, so that's all I can do.
You put your cell phone number in there?
I put my Instagram handle and my email because I was like, I don't want to be too creepy.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting you to call me Priscilla. And so if she wanted to be like, hey, I read it.
Yeah.
This is what I thought. She has 2 ways to hit me up.
That's awesome.
But
that's awesome.
we'll see.
We're so proud of you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your obedience to do
Yeah.
the long, hard work that the
Yeah.
Lord called you to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's another part of this beautiful story is that when things were hard, when you probably felt ill-equipped, not sure how to do all this, you hung in there with it and finished it. And it's a beautiful looking book.
Shout out to Eli Creasy.
Shout out to Eli Creasy for the cover. But it's a beautiful, powerful, practical, convicting, and encouraging book. And so anyway, I'm just so happy for you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the wonderful insight, wisdom. Everybody, go order your book. Pre-order. It will be out April 26th.
Yep.
Okay. Y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. We love you so much.